Good morning, and thank you for the deep honor of being in a room where truth isn't softened or hidden, but spoken boldly and used to drive real change. Thank you. It is my honor to address you here at the United Nations for the 70th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, and at this side event on how systems fail survivors, the role of justice and financial institutions in causing and combating sexual exploitation and trafficking. My name is Charlene Rochard, and I am here as a Canadian, an American, a daughter, a mother, an educator, an Epstein survivor, and an advocate against sexual exploitation and trafficking. My exploitation was not confined to one country. It crossed borders, jurisdictions, and systems. And as a woman who was exploited internationally, I have seen firsthand how failures in one nation's justice system can echo across others. And if you know my work, you know this. I do not come here to soften the truth. I come to speak it clearly, directly, and with conviction. We are living in a moment where we can no longer look away. We cannot pretend systems are working when they are failing the very people they were built to protect. And we cannot defend human dignity with structures that are broken or causing harm. Sex trafficking, specifically child sex trafficking, is one of the most severe forms of violence against women and girls. It sits at the intersection of gender inequality, weak governance, power imbalances, and systemic discrimination. Girls, some as young as 12, are being targeted, groomed, transported, and sold. This is not incidental, it is deeply gendered, deeply global, and deeply urgent. The Epstein files and related investigations reveal extensive abuse and trafficking that may constitute crimes against humanity. These disclosures reinforce a long-standing truth. Trafficking persists when systems fail. Although the Department of Justice claimed there were no investigative leads, many leads existed and were ignored. When I was a young girl, caught up in a network of exploitation, I did not understand, I didn't recognize the danger around me, I didn't see the risk of being sent to meet men of influence presented as career opportunities. I didn't recognize manipulation because no one had ever taught me what manipulation looks like. And let me say this plainly. Children cannot consent when someone is in a position of power over them. Age is a vulnerability, power is a weapon, and traffickers know exactly how to exploit both. Yet, instead of protecting children, too many in the press, the public, and even politics have tried to smear survivors, suggesting we're somehow complicit in our own exploitation. This tactic is called adultification. It is used to shift blame from perpetrators to children. It is cruel, it is false, and this must end. It took years of raising my own children, listening to survivors, doing this work, and finally naming my own truth, to understand these red flags for what they were. And now I see clearly how justice systems and financial systems can allow trafficking networks to survive. I have seen financial institutions allow large transactions to move freely, offshore accounts, payments that match trafficking indicators, yet nothing was stopped. I've seen private flights, travel patterns, and guest lists ignored, even when they showed the same powerful men appearing again and again in the same places as vulnerable girls. I've seen investigations stall not because evidence was lacking, but because those responsible had the resources to delay, deflect, or disappear. These patterns were visible long before the public ever saw them. Survivors reported concerns, advocates raised alarms, but the big dollars kept moving, and with it, the abuse. When institutions fail to protect the vulnerable, shame does not belong to the survivors. The shame belongs to the systems that ignored the warnings and protected perpetrators instead of the people they were meant to serve. As an educator, I am here hoping that the pain I once carried in silence can rise into something new and not a shadow to hide, but a force shaped by lived experience, steady, unwavering, and strong enough to help transform the systems that failed me and so many others. For me, this is deeply personal. I know what it feels like to wait for justice that seems like it may never come. And I refuse to stay silent while people with power face no consequences and survivors are left to rebuild their lives on their own. That is why this side event matters. We are gathered here to advance the priorities of the Commission on the Status of Women, eliminating violence against women and girls, strengthening gender equality, and linking these commitments to the women, peace, and security agenda. Because sexual violence, including trafficking and exploitation, undermines human security, corrodes the rule of law, and destabilizes communities. Access to justice is not just a legal principle. This is a lifeline. I know all too well how the systems that are supposed to deliver justice and accountability to our courts, our investigators, and our financial institutions hold immense power over survivors' lives. These systems can protect us, or they can harm us all over again. They can open the door to justice, or they can become tools of re-victimization. Too often, women, girls, and survivors face stigmas instead of support, criminalization instead of care, and barriers instead of pathways to justice. But it doesn't have to be this way. I am here to demand we build new systems that prevent violence rather than excuse it. Systems that protect rather than punish. And systems that adopt survivor-centered, trauma-informed approaches. Systems that strengthen investigators and prosecutions so perpetrators, not survivors, bear the weight of accountability. Systems that disrupt the financial flows that make exploitation profitable. Legal oversight can be strengthened. New tools can be built to detect trafficking red flags instead of overlooking them. Agencies can share intelligence across borders so no trafficker can hide behind wealth, influence, or jurisdiction. Survivors have waited far too long. The time for hesitation has passed, and the time for action is now. As a survivor, I did not come here to whisper. I came because silence has already cost too many girls their safety, their childhoods, and their futures. I came because systems that were meant to protect instead turned away. And because I refuse to let the next generation inherit those same failures. I am here to help create a future where justice systems no longer criminalize survivors, where financial systems no longer enable exploitation, and where no girl is ever treated as disposable again. I want a world where my children and your children Inherit systems that hold every level accountable, individual, institutional, and financial. I am here before you today in the hope that my voice, joined with yours, can help manifest a world where young women and girl survivors are not treated as evidence, but recognized as human beings who deserve justice, dignity, and the chance to rebuild what violence tried to break. And we are all here because survivors cannot change these systems alone. So now I call on you, with every ounce of strength I have. Let this be the moment we stop simply naming the problem and begin dismantling it piece by piece, system by system. Because girls who survive abuse by powerful people deserve more than our sorrow. They deserve protection. They deserve systems that believe them. They deserve a world that refuses to let power erase their pain or rewrite their truth. Let our voices be the living proof that resilience outlasts violence. That truth outshines fear. And that collective action can overpower any institution that once failed us. Stand with me, fight with me. Let's build a world together where no survivor, no child, no woman, no girl ever must stand alone in the dark again.